Welcome to the Courtship Aftershow, a talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that recaps and discusses former NBC, current USA Network, dating reality show, The Courtship, inspired by the work of Jane Austen. I am Liz Donatelli, and my co-host is my good friend and reality TV superfan, Tiffany Current. Today, Tiffany and I discuss the season finale, most likely the series finale, of The Courtship. So we are going to unpack Commitment of a Lifetime. This was a finale in two parts. So we were right.
Danny B for the win. Danny B took it away. I got to tell you, this was an exciting episode. That at one point, I'm like, maybe it won't be Danny B. Maybe it'll be Mr. Judge. I had so many different emotions in this episode, but I thought it was a really good one. What about you?
It was a really good one. I thought it was going to be a real snoozer.
Ditto.
But first of all, some of the dates that we'll discuss, I was like, wow, they really pulled out all the stops. Very interesting. It was very dramatic. I really was on the edge of my seat, even though I was like, oh, she's got to be picking Danny. But then there were a few moments I was like, well, I don't know. Yeah.
I know. I had so many emotions. I got teary-eyed. I'm sure you got teary-eyed at the same moment. And it's just like so many emotions. It was a good finale. I was happy with it.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
They start off, of course, on a blanket. Once again, it's a blanket. You gotta start at the beginning. And they were on a blanket, and it was the whole gang. It was Miss Remy, Mrs. Baker, Tessa, and her parents. And she was kind of talking a little bit. I thought this was funny. She said, I'm happy because I have a weight off my shoulders now because I was putting so much faith into someone who didn't have faith in us. So she kind of started off talking about Chapman. And even her mom was like, you know what, that they were very happy to hear that. They were happy that he was gone because the mom said, even though he seemed new and exciting, that lifestyle, once the newness is gone, it won't last. It probably wouldn't last. So
I wonder how much time elapsed between Mr. Chapman leaving and Miss Remy saying, I'm enlightened now. I put too much time in the wrong person. And she seems to be totally fine moving forward. It's
I know.
all behind her. So do you think this was the same week? A few weeks?
I don't know, but she seems past it. I'm assuming with the shooting schedule, it was not a few weeks. It was probably just like a couple days. But, once somebody breaks your heart, it's like, all right, you got to keep moving. They are shooting a show. There are other suitors. So they were on schedule. But
right.
Yeah, she seemed pretty recovered. What I love, though, is that the daily tea came. And I don't know who's writing the daily tea, but they're throwing some serious shade. Because it said like, after Mr. Chapman was chased away by the hounds, only 3 suitors remain. I was like, whoa, what's going on? What's happening? Who's writing this?
They got a little salty.
I was like, geez Louise. Now these 3 suitors would be going back into modern times to give Miss Remy a taste of the modern life. Then we cut to, I think, Mr. Edwards is getting ready to send Miss Remy on her way, and she goes into the modern world, as they say.
Cones is very eager to go back.
He's super excited.
To the present. He feels like this is where he's going to shine. Like he's going to be the 21st century knight in shining armor.
That's true. He was very excited, but he's like, oh, but what? Even she gave a call out. She said that she thought that Mr. Cones would have the best date. So she even thought that he'd be the most creative. So
she did. And you know what? He did have a very creative date. Although I thought Judge gave him a run for his money.
We're going to get there, but I agree with you. I agree with you. But let's start with the first date. The first date was Danny B.
Turtlenecked Danny B.
Danny B is wearing a turtleneck for some reason. But what I liked is that when they meet and they're in some, I don't know, place in England somewhere, some city.
It was in York. Right?
Oh, maybe they're actually in York.
Because then he said, oh, here's old York, and I'm going to bring you to New York.
That's cute. So, But they meet in Old York. And what I liked is that when he saw her walking in that outfit, he was like, yes, he was super excited. I love that reaction. Remember that they ran and they just embraced and they kissed. It was a long kiss. They were super excited to see each other.
There was a lot of kissing in this episode.
A lot of kissing.
And we'll have to touch base with each other later on to see which kisses we thought were the best.
I think we both have the best kiss. I think we both know what that kiss is. But it was funny, as you mentioned turtlenecks, he said that he was trying something new with his turtleneck. And she said that her dad loves to sport a turtleneck. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's a note.
Coincidence or not? I don't know. Maybe Bochicchio, went through Mr. Remy's wardrobe.
Getting some tips. He's like, what should I wear to win her over? He was looking very fancy.
I like a good turtleneck on him.
Yeah, he looks sophisticated.
He looks very sophisticated. He looked the part of a real estate broker.
Yes, he looked the part of, somebody on like Millionaire, I don't know, New York or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But they went on their date. I don't know. They basically just went out to eat.
Yeah. Well, he did mention brunch, lunch, dinner. So I was like, does this mean that they just ate all day and we only saw the one meal?
I don't know. I think it was just lunch. But once again, he says, I really, really like you. And this time I caught it. I was like, you're saying that again? I was like, and then you kind of saw her face fall. Like she's probably like me again, final 3. But he said that again. He did say it again.
He did say, and she was patient though with him. She didn't give him that look when he said, I like you. I was like, yeah, because you've got only 2 suitors left. You can't be picky about who's saying I love you and who's not.
You just got to accept it. At least Danny B's honest. I mean, she has that going for her.
He is honest. And then she says, it's easy to imagine life with you, Danny. And I'm like, well, you also imagine yourself, riding shotgun in Mr. Chapman's van. But,
I mean, that is true. That is true. But I thought their date, it felt like I could see them together, like in New York, as he said. This could be like an actual, I don't know, Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And it seemed like a legit date. And then I think basically when it ended, they kept kissing again. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't stop kissing you. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute.
He was very sweet in this episode. And to be fair, most regular dates are not going to be, very involved like judges and cones. So Bochicchio kind of gave a more realistic expectation of, hey, this is what you'll get from me. I like it. So I thought that was
fair.
Setting up a very, realistic metric for real world.
He's very practical. Now that you said it, he's very practical. He's like, this is what you're going to be getting, just so that you're aware. This is what real life will be like, and I appreciated that. That's what he wanted, and he gave it to her.
He gave it to her indeed. And then we go to
Let's go to it. Let's go to the hot date. Let's go to the hot date.
And Miss Remy. Oh my God, Judge. He is hot, the most hottest of the hot. First of all, if I saw Mr. Judge in a bar sitting in that very casual open legs, with his legs open like that, I mean, right?
Welcoming you. He's welcoming you with his legs open. He's like,
come stand between my legs and let me envelop you with my body. I was like, holy mother.
When they cut to Mr. Judge, because usually it's all about like the girl walking in, right? And he gets the slow-mo. When they cut to him, I had a slow-mo motion with him. Like, oh my God. He was sitting there and he stood up in those pants. I was like, to be those pants hugging his body, he looked incredible. He looked, I think that's the best I've ever seen him on the show. He looked amazing. He looked amazing.
He seemed comfortable in his own skin. And I think sometimes maybe in Regency attire, he didn't feel entirely comfortable.
Yes. I will say this entire date, I felt so much heat. I was like, I need to undress. He was giving her like such good like flirt, such good like gaze. Like the entire time he was just looking at her. It was so steamy. He kept looking at her, and I wish like if somebody looked at me like the way he was looking at her, I'm like, this is it. This is it. You're my number one. He was giving eyes, my friend, for days. Eyes for days.
And I'd like to share with you the sexiest words that I feel came out of his mouth. I don't know if you agree. To me, the hottest words and this is the hottest that could come out of any man's mouth.
Okay.
He said, I did a little bit of research. And I'm like, there you go. A thinking man who's going to research what it's going to take to woo me and to make me happy. When he said I did a bit, I was like, oh.
You started taking off your own clothes.
My clothes just went up in flames. He did research to figure out her favorite type of drink.
Yes.
So he could make it for her.
It wasn't anything fancy, but when he said, let me make it for you, I didn't care what he was going to make or what he was going to do. The fact that he got up very like, I don't know, Tom Cruise cocktail
Yes,
style.
I was thinking cocktail too.
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, make me a drink. Make
Yes.
me a drink, Mr. Judge.
Yeah.
I will say this. This is what was interesting to me. Before, when she walked in and she saw him, and we were both like, oh my God.
Yes.
She seemed a little standoffish. Like, I felt like he went in for the kiss and she kind of pulled away a little bit.
I didn't notice that.
I felt like she was a little standoffish, and maybe it's because she thought, I'm already into Danny B. I don't want to lead people on. That's the vibe that I got. But as the date continued, I don't even know what they talked about. Who cares? He was freaking hot. This is probably the best kiss. They leave the bar.
Oh, yes.
Yes. As the date continued, they leave the bar. He looks at her. She looks at him. They're in the middle of the street. He goes on to kiss her. Then he picks her up, pushes her against a wall, and just continues to just kiss the F out of her. It was amazeballs. It was like,
yeah,
I was watching that moment, and to me, that was Mr. Judge saying, like, this could have been our overnight. This could have been our overnight. You and me up against the wall. That could have been us, just so you're aware. But that was hot. Middle of the street, middle of the day, against the wall. When what I liked about that is she seemed so taken off guard that she laughed, but then she's like, you know what? You're hot. I'm doing it.
Yeah,
and she
she's
just
like,
went for it.
She went in for a mouthful, and I don't blame her.
That was the hottest kiss. Am I correct? That was the hottest kiss of the entire season.
Yeah, it was.
It was the hottest kiss.
It was the
amazing.
hottest kiss.
After the kiss, they cut to Miss Remy, and she's just like, like she's just like blown away. She's like, I don't know what just happened. I wasn't expecting that. She could barely breathe. She's like, I'm feeling so confused. I wasn't expecting this.
It's like, yeah, you should be.
And then I like that they cut to them again, and they're on the river and they're kissing.
He kissed her on the forehead and then kissed her on the lips. Yes. And what I wanted to ask you is, how did you feel about that forehead kiss? Because we talked about Captain Kim's forehead kiss many episodes ago, and you said you weren't into forehead kisses.
He gave her a couple different forehead kisses this episode, but something about this forehead kiss, maybe because he just like rammed her against a wall, was just like still very, it was like sensual, because it's just like, him saying like, this is a sweet kiss, and then him reminding her of her previous kiss by going to the lips. It was like a two-step situation. Yeah. I liked it.
He gave a little sweet. He gave a little spicy.
A little sweet, a little spicy. Either way, I'll take it. Yes. Yeah. I like the combo. I'll take the combo.
And plus she said he has butter lips in a couple of episodes ago. So it's like, I was thinking, the melting butter.
And she's like, you know what? Butter my popcorn, and I will continue to pop my kernels for you.
Butter my biscuit.
Butter my biscuit. He can butter biscuits. He can butter plenty of biscuits.
I got a hot biscuit for you to butter.
So then after this, they leave and they go to the Cones date. Mr. Cones.
Cones creates his own planetarium. I think it's adorable.
Yes.
I think it's adorable.
Okay.
What I thought was overkill was that he said the stars that are reflected on the ceiling, I don't know how he rigged that up. He said they are a simulation of how the stars were aligned on the day you were born. And I feel like that was too much. That was too far.
Why was that he was trying to do something special for her.
I think it was too far. I don't know. It was almost like, okay, like too much. I don't know. I can't describe why that didn't sit well with me.
Wow. Somebody doesn't like the personal touch. I'm sorry to hear that.
I like the personal touch, but I would have preferred a nice charcuterie board. With cheeses cut like constellations. That to me, I would prefer over because I'm not into astronomy.
Yeah. But I think he's discussed in the past, specifically the past episode, that he likes to go all out when he's, really into a person and be very creative. So that's what he was trying to do, to be creative. For him, that was romantic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to not hit you in the right way. So we leave the Cones date, and now it's time for Miss Remy to decide what suitor should she send home. And what I thought was so funny about this moment, that they're in, I don't know, a parking lot. I don't know where they are. And Mr. Edwards is there in like regular clothing attire. And all I could think of was Tim Curry. He totally reminded me of Tim Curry and Clue.
Oh my God, that's who he reminded me of. Oh my God, you are right on. You are right on.
The voice.
Yes.
The look.
Yes.
I was like, he is Tim Curry in Clue. From that point on, I only saw Tim Curry. Tim Curry. Every single time that he spoke, I'm like, it's Tim Curry.
In that scene where I was gonna say Mr. Curry, where Mr. Edwards, Miss Remy are standing outside the castle. There's the carriage behind them to take, the remaining two suitors away, and they have a limo pull up, and it's so dark, and everyone's wearing dark colors. Didn't it look like some kind of mafia meeting, like some midnight mafia meeting, where it's like the person in the limo is gonna get, offed or something? Like it was.
You're not going home. Yeah, you're not going home.
It was very dark.
She first says what she wants to keep. First, it's Danny B, of course.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, it has to be Mr. Judge. And it was Mr. Judge number 2, because she said she's starting to feel butterflies with him, which we all saw. We saw it.
Oh, I felt more than butterflies.
And then it was time to say goodbye to Mr. Cones. And he started crying and he said, I'll never forget you. And I thought it was really sweet.
It was. Actually, he was so gutted. And I think he was blindsided. Yeah. I really don't think he thought he was going. He seemed and that's what killed me, is that when they first showed their faces before she made the decision, he was so smiley. And I kept saying, oh my God, he's going to get crushed, because I didn't think he was going to move forward. Despite my previous comments about the planetarian date, I really felt for him, and I really do like him. I think he's a genuine guy.
I'm assuming they're probably still friends in real life, would be my guess, because they seem like they had a really good friend connection.
Well, I hope they're still friends, and I hope he was able to move on, because he had shared during their date about how he had gotten butterflies for someone during quarantine, and that he was kind of bummed they didn't feel the same way. So I was like, oh.
So Mr. Cones goes off and with the mafia in his limo, and then we get back to the castle.
Yes.
And then basically we more or less see, I guess, the people kind of recapping. We see Bochicchio and Mr. Judge together.
There's a lot of recapping.
There's a lot of recapping, and we get the daily tea again. Once again, shade. Daily tea shade is what it should be. Like the daily shade is what it should be called.
Remind me, what did they say?
Because they said something along the lines of like, we're going to have our final dates. Will Danny B finally be able to show his emotion? Will Mr. Judge finally be romantic? I was like, who's writing this stuff? Well, that's hostile. And then we start the dates. We start the final dates. The first one is with with Danny B.
Danny B's date, I thought it started out a little rough, but I thought it
was shaking.
It ended
because
really
it started
beautiful.
out with them on a horse. Like he was kind of driving the horse. She was sitting, I don't know, ladylike on the horse. And I was kind of nervous.
Saddle. And they're talking on this horse. And I'm like, that's got to be uncomfortable, because her head's turned, his head's turned. They arrive at the date.
Yes. The picnic. It's the ultimate picnic date. It's a beautiful laid out blanket with lots of pillows.
For some reason, they decided to up the pillow budget.
All the pillows. There was like 10 pillows. I was like, that's a bunch of freaking pillows.
Yeah.
And then they would set them on a tree. And on each tree, there were what were they, Liz? What was it?
Okay, well, what Mr. Edwards called it was a heartfelt letter tree. I called it feelings tree. It is little scrolls tied up really pretty with some string and some jewels on the different branches. And it is all the things that Mr. Bochicchio wanted to say to Miss Remy that he hadn't been able to verbalize up to this point.
And it was so, in that moment, I like her started to tear up when she started opening those things. And he's just like, when we touch, my heart skips a beat. My mom is going to love you. Your laugh lights up my heart. I was like, tear. It was so sweet. And then finally we get to the blank letter. We get to a blank letter.
The blank scroll was genius. This is beautiful. This is like straight out of a romance novel. And I'm like, he definitely had help. A producer created this whole, there's no way he thought of that. I'm sorry. There's no way. But anyway, what's on the blank letter?
Whether or not he thought of it or not, when he opened up the blank letter, I was like, oh my God. And basically he said, I didn't want to write it down. I wanted to say it. And I wrote it down. I'm like, and he finally says, I love you. And she breaks down. She's like, oh my God.
She is. And I got kind of chills when it happened, because
it was super romantic.
We knew she wanted this.
Yes.
In that moment, even though we might have questioned her throughout the series, in that moment, I was like, this is really what she wanted.
Yes.
The relief, the joy, it all came through. He got emotional too, if I do recall.
Yes, correct? He got emotional. It was a really nice moment. Like, she was very emotional. They kissed, and she went on to admit, like, I was so worried that I would like you more than me, and that's how it would
Yes.
continue. And it was nice
Yes.
to hear, like, so she finally got that relief she was looking for when
did.
he finally said that the I love you. So that was
It was a
great.
beautiful moment. And then they spent a little time chatting, and he's on the picnic blanket, and he said how he was kind of nervous, and she's like, why?
It's like, why? What's going on? What's happening in your
Why would
life?
you be nervous? And he's like, there's another suitor left.
He's like, we're on a reality show. Did you forget? There's still more of this episode to go. But it was a very cute moment. But meanwhile, while this was happening,
Yes.
Mr. Judge was having a one-on-one with the Remys. He was talking to the Remys about his intentions for their daughter.
He did. And you know what? First, I have to say, I mean, he's such a eloquent speaker. He speaks really well. He gave all the right answers. He complimented Mr. and Mrs. Remy on their exemplary parenting. And Mr. Remy was like, let her know that she's the one for you, because he was very forthcoming with his feelings. Like, she's for me, and I see us having a family. And Mr. Remy's like, go for it, Judge.
The Remys were moved. They were moved.
Yeah.
I saw them get a little teary-eyed, and I was like, this guy is incredible, because they directly asked him, like, what are your plans? What are your intentions? And he said, I want to keep your daughter safe, and I want to start a family like yours. And what I thought was funny is you crisscross from him meeting the parents to then seeing Mr. Bochicchio come in to meet the parents. And the parents ask him, so where do you see this going? He's just like, well, I think I might want to move in with her maybe at some point. And I was like, Mr. Bochicchio.
I'll be honest, I don't think Mr. Bochicchio did a great job talking with Mr. and Mrs. Remy. I felt his answers paled in comparison to Judge's. Yes. And when he said the first thing out of his mouth is, we'd move in together, I'm like, oh, forget it. They're not going to give their approval because but at the same time, it was a realistic conversation. Like, that's probably what, an average.
It was practical. It was very practical. But you go from Mr. Judge saying, I want to have a family with her, to Mr. Bochicchio was like, I think at some point we might move in together, maybe. Yeah. And we'll kind of see how that goes. And then he goes on to say, like, he's like, I'm not going to make any promises.
Yes. Like, and I was like saying, shut up, don't say that to them.
This is going to work out. But what I thought was so interesting is that Mrs. Remy was like, you know what? I believe you and I appreciate your honesty. She's like, because I know from you, she's like, in the beginning, I didn't quite know what to do with your honesty, but now I know when you speak, it's direct, and I know that you're telling the truth. So I know that what you're saying is the truth. So I think we got to see them finally coming around to his, I guess, direct East Coastness personality, and they began to like it.
Here's the thing that also I think prompted the Remys to open their hearts to Bochicchio is they said, listen, there's a 50-50 chance that this guy is going to be our son-in-law. We're going to have to get really open-minded and comfortable with him quickly. That's my thinking, because I still don't feel like he totally bowled them over with his, intentions. I don't know. I don't
think so either, but I think they were also thinking, you know what? At least he doesn't live in a van. They're like, he has a job. He has a home, so I think they were probably also thinking, you know what, he's better than Mr. Chapman. So that's fine.
Right.
After talking with the Remys, then we get the next Mr. Judge date.
Okay.
I can't with you. What?
Okay. No. Okay. All right. They're walking along this large field and you see cows, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where this is going. Judge says to Miss Remy that he was going to whip out a last minute trick for her. And I said, yes,
your dirty
please.
Mind.
Yes,
your dirty
please.
Mind.
I said, oh boy, this could go in a whole other direction.
I don't quite understand this date, but whatever. So at least the beginning part of it.
Okay. I don't understand any part of it.
No, I'll get to, let's kind of glaze over this and get to the main camping part. But first it starts with him putting on a glove and a bird comes and lands on his arm. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And he's like, open the pouch. And inside the pouch is a key. The bird flies away. Okay, we didn't need the bird. Just give me the key.
Was it a falcon?
Does it matter?
Okay, but wait, can we just back up to one step before the falcon? He puts on the glove, and what does he take out? He takes out a little chicken leg, like a raw chicken leg, okay? And my question is, do you think that chicken leg came from Harriet?
Oh my God, could you imagine? Wouldn't that be interesting if they opened the pouch and it's a little name tag? Mr. Bochicchio named her. This is what he does out of spite. He's like, well, I'll teach you about Mr. Bochicchio.
That's immediately what I thought was.
I'll get his bird. For some odd reason, they take out a magic key. The bird flies away. They go back to the castle.
Yes.
He shows her a secret door. I'm going through it fast because I was like, this has no point. He's like, oh, this is where I first saw you. Whatever. Who cares? Then they go on a camping date. They get to the campsite, and I was actually okay with it because he says that he likes fishing and camping, so he wanted to give her kind of a piece of what he enjoys. And I was okay with that. And they sit down and they start chatting. And what I thought was so hilarious, she's just like, well, how many kids do you want to have? And she says, I want 3 to 5 kids. And at first I was like, that's kind of nutball.
Yeah.
He's like, I want 3 kids. And I was like, oh, that's very cute. That's very nice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought they actually had a lot of really good conversations, and everything he was saying, I was like, this man is amazing to me. He's amazing to me because he was saying like, you know what, I really want to be, my goal is to be a good father and to be a good husband. And he's like, ultimately you have to be kind to both. And that's how you're able to do both. And I was like, this man is amazing. I don't know how he is single. He is an amazing person. I don't get it.
He is. Yeah. Yes. I wonder the same thing. Why is this man still single? And then I remembered his pin. His brooch is a snake. So I don't know what that means.
Okay. You got to let it go. That's not why.
Well, anyway, but he
That's
did.
Not why.
I have to back check just a little bit before they got to the, okay.
What?
Before the camping trip, which to be honest, I don't know if she was really into the camping end of it. I
don't know what she's into. Yeah. She's like, I can camp.
I don't think she was. Okay. When he took her to the secret room and they look at this beautiful ceiling and then they look down and it's the hallway that they first entered at the start of the season where it all began. I was like, I don't understand. How is this a secret room if it's open?
If I can see it, it's right there.
Didn't they pass through the entrance of this castle so many times and look up and see that balcony in the secret room? So I was like, how is that? How is this like a surprise?
The balcony, but they never got there before. I don't know. It was a waste of time.
Okay. It was, I think they should have just cut out all the falconry and just do the camping date.
Yes, I totally agree with you. The camping date is where it was at. I was like, let's do the camping date. Did you like the camping date?
I've never been camping. I have no reason to camp. I don't want to camp. I don't like camp. I used to work at a camp. And I'm like, no camp for me. But I thought it was sweet that he lit the fire. I like people around me who are very crafty in the wilderness. So when he lit the fire, I was like, go ahead. I thought it was cute that he was making like grilled cheese. He was making like grilled cheese. So I thought that was like comfort food. That's the way to my heart. So I liked that. And I liked the whole tent like setup.
Yeah.
Okay. Thought it was romantic. I did. Listen, anything Judge does to me would be romantic. He could like take a garbage bag, open it up and say, let's climb inside. I'd be like, yeah, that's romantic.
You're like, this is a perfect date. Thank you. I love garbage.
Yeah. And we would just make out with his butter lips.
But speaking of which, in the tent, at some point, they do start making out. And it's a very serious makeout. And I was like, I wonder if this will be an overnight date. I don't know. But it was like a serious makeout. And she stopped and she's like, Jesse. Yeah. She said it so breathlessly. Jesse.
She did. Yeah. I hope with every fiber of my being that she got a taste of Judge in an overnight experience before committing her life to Danny B.
I actually would agree with that. Maybe that's what the campsite was. We don't know. We don't know what else happened. It was
what happens at the campsite
stays at the campsite. But so we leave the camp date. And I guess it's time for the final, as they put it, diamond ball. And we see everyone, like the whole Remy family and Tessa in white. And I guess Miss Remy comes out in white. And then we see Mr. Edwards. And I love his voiceover. He's like, no one is noticing my suit. No one is noticing my nice suit. You know, no one was complimenting him.
He looks so hot. He looked like he would be like James Bond. He was dressed like a James Bond suit.
He looks like a hot Tim Curry, I guess, apparently. So we get to the ball, and then who walks in? It's Mr. Judge and Mr. Bochicchio. They walk in their little white outfits, and they proceed to each take a turn kind of dancing with Miss Remy for the last time.
And there's more recapping.
And then finally, I think at some point, Miss Remy's like, who should I pick? Asking her court. And they're just like, we've given our blessings to both. And at that point, Mr. Judge is watching her dance with Mr. Bochicchio, and he says, like, I'm feeling a little bit of concern. I want to go talk to her. So he pulls her off alone. I'm like, what's going to happen? Everyone else is like, what's going to happen? I didn't know what was going to happen. And he pulls her off alone. And then basically he goes on to just share the most beautiful feelings in the world, heartbreaking feelings. And he goes on to say, like, I think our relationship has progressed so much over time. And every single time I go on a date with you, I fall more in love. And he says, I want you so bad. I think you are the missing piece in my life. I mean,
yeah. I know. I mean, my heart hurt for him because I knew where this was going to go. You could see it in her eyes.
I know.
I was like, oh boy. And then, she started saying about, I get butterflies with you. There's someone I get butterflies with more.
She looked, she was already starting to cry. And I was like, oh, she's about to break his heart.
Yeah. And she really didn't verbalize, like, you have to, like, it wasn't even, it was kind of an unspoken being, I get butterflies with someone else. This has not happened. Like, she didn't really say it directly to him.
I think it was because it was so tough because he just admitted those feelings. And then after she says that, his face. Yeah. He even says that he's like, I'm not mad. I'm just heartbroken.
Yeah, I know. What a guy too. He wasn't even like mad. He was just like, I'm just so hurt. Yeah. And then what he says, like on the 1-on-1, the camera confessional, where he says, he's like, I'm a good guy. I deserve love. And then he's like, I'll find it. And I'm like, he killed me. He tore my heart out. Yeah.
He tore my heart out. And at one point he said to Miss Remy, these past couple of weeks, I painted a clear picture of us in my head, and now it won't be there. I feel lost.
Yes.
I was so broken with him in that moment.
Boy, did I feel for him.
I felt his pain of the heartache and of the heartbreak. And I was just like, no matter what, I'm thinking whoever ends up with him will live the best life ever, because he will do so many things to make this person happy. Like whoever he ends up with is the luckiest person in the world, because he just seems like a truly great person. After, unfortunately, Mr. Judge is sent away in his carriage, and it's very sad. We get to the Danny B date.
Danny B date. So he takes her outside, and what does I've lived. Oh, and this is this. Oh, so Danny B and Remy sit outside the castle steps, and she wait, no, actually, what did they do?
Yeah.
Didn't he go right into
so basically no. So basically what happens on this Danny B date, or walk around, he takes her outside, and they're more or less walking the same path they walked the very first night together. So it's kind of a throwback to their very first connection, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And they sit down and they start talking, and she just says, I really love you so much. I think we see a future together. And he says the same thing. I love you. I really love you too.
I loved you for so long, and I haven't stopped. Like, okay.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, so you're just going to ask her to date. That's fine. And then the surprise happened. He takes a moment. He stands up, and I was like, no, he's not about to do this. He gets on one knee and freaking proposes to her.
He does propose. I was not as surprised as you.
I was so freaking surprised,
because I felt like once he grabbed her privately, and he said, she loves him. He's saying, oh, I'm just the guy from Staten Island who's not very interesting, finding this beautiful woman. I was like, oh, he's gonna want to really seal the deal.
I was totally surprised, as this whole freaking season, he said, I don't want to propose, and then he proposes. She, of course, is in shock and isn't excited. And she's just like, oh my God. And she kisses him.
They both seem genuinely happy. I am happy for them.
I am happy for them. Here's the thing, though. When he proposed, a part of me, I'm happy she got what she wanted, and I'm happy they have a happy ending. But a part of me thought, I really didn't want him to propose, because he really didn't seem like he wanted to. So I was a little disappointed that he proposed. I was happy for them to end up together because they seemed like the right match. Yeah. But I was like, I kind of didn't want him to propose, but to each his own.
Do you think it was a pressure situation where he feels like, I've got to give her this storybook ending, otherwise I'm walking home alone?
I don't know. I just felt like he said it so many times that that's why I was so surprised that he did it. But you know what? He seemed to go along with it, and he said, like, you know what? I just want to be in the moment. I just want to do it. And And I guess we'll find out what happened to them.
It did cross my mind that is he just kind of stuffing all of his concerns or his reluctance, stuffing it deep, deep, deep because of the pressure of the show? Because listen, if they had met in real life, like they would not have gotten engaged that quickly.
No,
so
like
we
6
do
weeks,
know it was kind of a pressure cooker situation. But I would love to find out where they're at with all of that planning. I thought it was funny that someone must have asked, what's the first thing you're going to do? Because they start talking, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to look for a place in Manhattan and a place in Seattle. And I'm like, a place in Manhattan? How much money are you guys making? Because
because I said a place in Seattle, a place in Manhattan, and maybe a house in Hawaii. Did you hear that? And I was like, and Hawaii?
She did mention, so
and
I'm like,
Hawaii?
He must do commercial real estate because he must, and she must. I know she does coding.
She's a software engineer in
they must
Seattle.
Make
That's a lot of money.
I'm like, okay, well, that's nice.
That's very nice to have 3 homes.
I guess that's how they match speeds, huh? Is like also their
it's
income.
The same lifestyle, but they go back inside and everyone is jumping up and down as excited. And then suddenly she reveals the ring. And then Mrs. Baker falls to the floor in shock, which I love. I thought that was so cute. Her mom starts crying. I was like, oh.
I got chills. I was laughing. I was crying. And then she runs up and hugs the two of them.
Both of them at the same time. It was so real.
A nice tidy bow was tied.
It was a nice ending. Yes.
So what do you think you're going to miss about the courtship?
For me, honestly, I'm going to miss the suitors. I really enjoyed the suitors. I liked getting to know them. They were funny. They had the most romantic lines in the world. So that's probably my favorite part. I really do. I'm going to miss the suitors. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, I would love to see just a show about the suitors.
I know.
Just men living in Regency times and women on Regency times, and they live separately. And then the finale, they meet for the big ball.
They get together. Yeah. I would watch that show.
I would too. I'm going to miss the whole concept of it being in Regency times. Because I don't think there's going to be another show like this. And I don't think this show is going to get a second season.
I agree.
So I'm going to miss that fantasy dating reality show concept. And I'm going to miss the blankets. I'm going to miss the blanket picnics and the blankets.
I'm going to miss the extras. I'm going to miss all the extras. Like, what is he doing there? Why are they there?
I'm going to miss the extras. They were in full effect at the Diamond Ball. There were
so
extras
many
all
extras
over the place.
Yes.
Of course, I'm going to miss chatting about the show with you. So
that's sweet. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. I'm going to miss it too.
I invited you on this journey and you accepted wholeheartedly. Before we wrap it up and say farewell one last time, I would like to thank some of our YouTube fans who have watched the Courtship After Show and consistently commented and joined in the discussion. So I've got a top 3, and you're probably familiar with them, Tiffany.
Yes.
We have Cece, Andrea Hope, and Patricia Alexis. They consistently would, comment and compliment us. And I felt like they were kind of the other hosts,
extra co-host. It was great to engage.
CC would do a step by beat by beat,
a deep dive
analysis. So,
and she provides some inside information, so we really appreciate it. We loved that. That was great.
She did. Yes, we're very thankful for that. And but we're not going to go away forever. We will recap in some other capacity in the future, so everyone should stay tuned.
Farewell, your carriage awaits.